bull market is still going to continue. Obviously, we've slowed down a bit, and now we're entering the summer, the northern hemispheric summer, where things slow down, volatility declines, and we're going to get a choppy range-bound market. But for those people who have fiat and extra cash that want to allocate to crypto, this is the perfect opportunity to do so.
앞으로 강세장 사이클은 여전히 지속될 것이며 현재 지루한 박스권 장세를 그리고 있는 지금 이 시기가 현금을 보유한 투자자들에게는 최고의 기회가 될 것이라고 주장하고 있는 인물은 비트맥스의 창업자 아서 헤이즈입니다. 아서 헤이즈는 크립토 시장의 전반적인 전망에 대해서 그 누구보다 뛰어난 인사이트를 보여주었던 인물이고 암호화폐 씬의 핵심적인 플레이어인 만큼 그가 생각하는 이번 크립토 사이클의 방향성과 향후 시장의 전반적인 흐름에 대한 그의 디테일한 인사이트에 대해서 함께 들어보도록 하겠습니다.
Everybody is wondering when are we going to see the effects of the Bitcoin halving kicking in and having like an impact on the trajectory of Bitcoin price?
So, I mean, you can look at the previous halvings, and anywhere between 4 to 18 months later, you get a new all-time high. The more important thing is that the major economies around the world are going to print even more money between now and, say, the next 18 to 24 months. I think the big event that crypto investors need to follow very closely is the upcoming U.S. presidential election. Not because the U.S. is important just because it's the U.S., but more so it's the global empire, its financial policy influences what the Chinese, the Japanese, the Europeans all do. And so if you have an easing of monetary policy because Janet Yellen, U.S. Treasury Secretary, and Jerome Powell, the Fed president, are doing everything they can to make sure that Joe Biden gets reelected. And that basically means, how do I reduce the cost of government borrowing so that him and his Democratic Party can hand out more goodies to the electorate and get reelected? That's what's going to happen between now and the end of the year. When you control the purse of the government, it's very easy to do so by printing money, borrowing it, and handing it out to people in various forms.
So essentially, you think the American elections are going to be a net positive for the crypto market?
Regardless of who wins. Whoever wins, they're campaigning on, I'm going to give you something that you don't have to pay for. And I'm going to pay for it by borrowing more money. I'm going to pay for it by using the central bank to print money. And that's really what the fight is about. The bull market is still going to continue. Obviously, we've slowed down a bit, and now we're entering the summer, the northern hemispheric summer, where things slow down, volatility declines, and we're going to get a choppy range-bound market. But for those people who have fiat and extra cash that want to allocate to crypto, this is the perfect opportunity to do so.
So one of the macro indicators that seem to have the biggest impact on the price of Bitcoin is M2, so global liquidity. In previous years, we saw how that indicator skyrocketed during the COVID pandemic when governments were injecting massive amounts of capital into the economy in order to prevent it from collapsing. And then we saw that later in 2022, that indicator started going down, and now it's pretty much flat. So I guess that indicator should go up again in order for Bitcoin to resume its bull run.
The problem with M2 is that it doesn't capture all the things that are used as credit money in the economy. And every time there's a new problem, the elites in charge come up with a new way to confuse people about how they're going to print money. So maybe it's M2. Maybe it's broad banking reserves. Maybe it's the reserves held at the central bank. It depends on every single economy and how they want to print money. But at the end of the day, the goal is, how do I stuff more credit money through the economy without getting a negative reaction from the populace being like, oh, what's all this inflation? I'm going to blame the people in charge. So yes, M2 is a good measure. And sometimes it works, and then sometimes it's flat. But it's been flat, for a while. But you still see gold and crypto doing very well. You still see major tech indices at all the new time highs. So there is an ample liquidity. It's increasing. It just might be in the indices that people are familiar with from how it operated in the past.
Two contrasting narrative. One saying Bitcoin is not going to perform as well as in previous cycles. Others saying it's going to perform so much better because of these spot Bitcoin ETFs. What is your take in between these two narratives?
So I go back to the first thing I said, was that the thing that got us from 2009 to 2024 in that massive central bank printing, government spending, that's going to continue. Now, the addition of the ETF is very important because now, instead of just, Muppets like us who aren't, fiduciaries or institutional investors who are buying these things, we now have an institutional investor class who are saying the same thing. You have all these luminaries of the financial services industry in the West saying the same thing that I'm saying, which is the government spending by Western democratic governments, and I'll add China in there as well, is unsustainable at these levels. And they're questioning whether or not owning a domestically risk-free domestic currency bond is a good idea for a fiduciary. Now, if that belief holds, then these institutions can now express that view through a BlackRock or Fidelity or pick your large fund managers Bitcoin ETF. They don't have to custody it. They don't have to worry about who they bought it from. They're buying it from, the establishment itself. And so they can express this negative view on the sovereign bond market directly into the best performing asset in human history over the last 15 years. So while the growth in AUM might have slowed, the marketing machine of TradFi is just getting started. These are the most successful products ever for BlackRock and Fidelity and the rest of these fund managers. Do you think they're just going to stop after 3 months? Of course not. They're going to be advertising in all the mainstream financial press. This is a long game. So I think people are underestimating the stickiness of these flows. That doesn't mean that we're entering into, a Kyle Davies and Suju super cycle. That's complete bullshit. There will be a downturn in the price of Bitcoin at some point. But I think that our expectations need to realign with the fact that there's going to be even more money printed by the major economic blocks between now and the next bear market.
What do you think is a signal that people should look at in order to understand the peak of this bull cycle? How can people understand that we reached the top?
Probably you're going to start seeing some sort of positive real rate. And I define the real rate as your 10-year government bond minus nominal GDP. Or maybe there's going to be some major global conflict and a reordering of the economic and both political situation between the major powers. That sort of will culminate in obviously some orgy of money printing. And after that, our expectations might just get ahead of us. And that probably is a signal that it's time to, come down in price. Do I have a specific thing I'm looking for? No, it's more of a feeling. The fact that we just passed 70,000. Now we're bound at, 63 or 64,000 Bitcoin. And people are questioning whether that was the end of the bull market. And we just started. I mean, this run, it really just started in November of 2023. Well, I would say that probably means that we're not even close because we have people inside of the ecosystem are still doubting it. When you hear everyone saying we have fundamentally changed the cycle of Bitcoin could never go down. When I start hearing more and more of that from people who are doubting it at this point in time of the cycle, then I'll start to get a bit more worried that our expectations of what money printing can do for Bitcoin are getting ahead of what will actually happen. But I don't think we're there yet.
People were looking for more positive bullish narratives. One of them was the potential approval of a spot Ethereum ETF. I talked to a few analysts, Bloomberg analysts. They said that now they don't necessarily expect that to happen anytime soon. What do you think?
I guess define soon. I said probably in the next 12 to 24 months, I think there'll be a spot Ethereum ETF, there'll be a Solana ETF, there'll be every single other cryptocurrency ETF that any of these fund managers can get through. Because if the Bitcoin one did so well and they're making so much money doing this, why wouldn't you do it for all other cryptocurrencies? These are passive investing behemoths. They don't have a view on whether Ethereum or Solana or Bitcoin is good or bad per se. It's more like if the clientele wants it and the institutional and retail investors in the West want to own these things, instead of letting us exchange owners offshore own these things, why don't they own them themselves? And so that's why there's going to be a secular rise of different products. There'll be a few obstacles put in place by the regulators, but at the end of the day, these are captured institutions, and whatever Larry Fink wants to do, he's going to do it. Maybe it's not going to happen this summer, but I have extreme confidence that by the end of this cycle, there will be an Ethereum ETF, BlackRock, Fidelity, Vanguard, pick your name of your major asset manager, they'll have one because they make so much money doing it. Why wouldn't you do it?